So, folks, we have to, as many days lately we have had to do, talk about Iran. Specifically, what's going on? What's happening with Iran? You know, the current president of the United States, Donald Trump, that doesn't sound right, but it's correct, is uh, just kind of shitting the bed. There's no other way of really putting it. There have been these messagings from the White House that, like, oh, well, we're close to a deal. It's 95% done. All we have left to do is talk about the nuclear stuff, yada, yada, yada. They've been talking about this for weeks now. And I think at this point, it's pretty safe to say these are just lies, because part of what had been discussed in previous deals that have been floated to the press are essentially like ideas like, oh, well, we'll free up Iranian money like the JCPOA did, but no, trust us, bro, we'll do it in a completely different way. It'll be nothing like the JCPOA giving Iran back its own money. It'll be completely different, but we'll be giving Iran back its own money. Also, like, oh, we're going to drop sanctions on Iran. That all seems to be lies, according to Marco Rubio, who went in front of the Senate earlier today, in 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 order to basically, or the Senate, the House, yeah, he testified in front of Congress. Yes, the Senate. He testified in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Now, this is the first of 4 different hearings that he is going to be having in front of them. And he said, to quote, right now, everything that's been discussed with them, Iran, is that any sanctions relief is condition-based, which means that it will be in return for the reason why those sanctions were put in place in the first place, which is their nuclear program. So, sanctions relief isn't, as has been told to the press in the past, contingent on them opening the Strait of Hormuz. Now sanctions relief is contingent on them abandoning any kind of nuclear program whatsoever. That seems to be like a non-starter for the Iranians for several different reasons, right? Essentially, what you have is just a classic Peanuts cartoon. You got Lucy with the football, and then whoop, taking the football away. It's very interesting to see it happen time and time again, because it seems to work on the stock markets. And it really does seem like all of the lies have been particularly aimed at manipulating stock markets. This is all complicated by the fact that in the negotiations with Iran up until this point, the supreme leader, or the new supreme leader, has largely been absent due to, I believe, injury in the early attacks on Iran. However, he's on the mend, and he is now getting involved more and more in the negotiations. Yeah, let's take a look here. I think there are indications out there that he's increasingly engaging at some level, although all of his communications have been in writing and through intermediaries, according to Marco Rubio. And Trump insists Iran talks happening continuously. They're just happening all the time. Why, there's no way the Iran talks would ever come to an end. Now, all of this talk about like trying to cajole Iran into making some kind of agreement is happening, well, in the background. We've talked about this a bit. Israel is continuing to escalate its war against Lebanon. They have pushed further into Lebanon, seized more territory than I think at any point since they ended their occupation of southern Lebanon in 2000. And there are some reports, obviously this got a lot of traction in conservative media, this "are you fucking crazy" or "you're fucking crazy," Trump fumes at Netanyahu and called on Lebanon. Essentially, this Axios piece discusses in depth this idea that like Donald Trump is yelling and denigrating Netanyahu behind the scenes to try and bring Israel to heel and to stop them from doing their dirty deeds in Lebanon. And all of this is happening, by the way, as Israel and Lebanon are meeting to have peace talks. It's all a mess. But basically, what it seems like Donald Trump is trying very ineffectively to do is to get Israel to stop pulling shit in Lebanon, because that is making it harder to get a deal in Iran. Except Israel has no incentive to stop invading Lebanon. They're getting everything they want right now. Benjamin Netanyahu is getting everything he wants. Like, none of this, like just saying, don't you do that, Netanyahu, that's not going to stop him. And so, when we take a look at what's going on, I think it's pretty obvious also that Donald Trump is a crazy person, because I read this Truth Social post from him like over a week ago for a completely different story about Iran and the Iran negotiations. I'm going to read it out loud again. I'm not going to do his voice, but if Iran surrenders, admits their navy is gone and resting at the bottom of the sea, and the Air Force is no longer with us, and if their entire military walks out of Tehran, weapons dropped and hands held high, each shouting, I surrender, while wildly waving the representative white flag, and if their entire remaining leadership signs all necessary documents of surrender and admits their defeat to the great power and force of the magnificent USA, the failing New York Times, the China Wall Street Journal, WSJ, corrupted now irrelevant CNN, and all other members of the fake news media will headline that Iran had a masterful and brilliant victory over the United States of America. It wasn't even close. The Democrats and media have totally lost their way. They've gone absolutely crazy. President DJT. I read this to you guys, and I want you guys to understand this is a new post he put up today, or rather yesterday. He thought this post was so good that he wrote, or someone on his staff wrote, over a week ago, that this isn't retruth. They just copied and pasted it again, right? And like, it's a sign that mentally he's deeply unwell. He's deeply, deeply unwell. But it gets worse, because Iran fires missiles and U.S. strikes Iran facility after reports of faltering peace talks. So this happened earlier today, and basically the entire region has erupted into apparent conflict. There's not really any other way of saying it. Basically, Iranians earlier today cut off all diplomatic talks to the United States, just completely said, nope, this isn't going to happen. We are not talking to you anymore. Specifically because, in part, they cite that the United States is not actually negotiating. They are saying, the Iranians are saying that the United States is simply yanking their chain as a pretext to try and like quell oil prices in the United States domestically. Like, and that seems to me actually to be a fairly reasonable position or read of what is happening, because none of this negotiation seems to actually be going anywhere, and it's always just 2 weeks away from clinching the deal. You know, it's wild stuff. And yeah, the ceasefire is seemingly breaking down in real time. Here's Donald Trump responding shortly after Iran cut off talks. Fake news reports that the Islamic Republic of Iran and the USA stopped speaking a few days ago are false and erroneous.
Shoop the whoop.
You know, we're getting really close to shoop the whoop, as it's said.
Call me daddy.
Shoop the whoop. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs, Sake Tanuki. And yeah, basically Donald Trump is over here saying it's all lies, and yeah, we've got multiple attacks now confirmed across the Middle East. In particular, Iran carried out a drone strike on Kuwait, specifically their international airport, hitting a terminal, injuring civilians, and shutting down the airport. Essentially, it seems like we just have a resumption of hostilities, and this is not going to suddenly get any better. And as we start looking at this, Worth noting that earlier in the day, an Iranian officer apparently said that a renewed war with the United States seems inevitable because, to be very frank with you, the incoming supreme leader, who is apparently recovering enough to issue orders, is more of a hardliner than his predecessor, right? And the idea here that only the United States has war hawks is deeply misguided, because there are also war hawks in Iran. There are Iranian war hawks who want attacks to resume so that they can build their regional power and build their regional capacity, because they have so far been incredibly successful in establishing international deterrence by holding the Strait of Hormuz. The United States is not able to open it by force. It's why we've been trying to negotiate it to be open. I mean, it's been pretty clear that the talks have been breaking down because the United States has been doing self-defense strikes and love taps, as Donald Trump said, in Iran for the past week or so. And there's really no way for Donald Trump to extract himself from this situation without taking a big fat L, without making something that resembles the JCPOA but worse, or without completely admitting defeat and slinking away. And that's part of what's scary about what's happening right now,
Cue Pam from the Office meme, 2 weeks till infrastructure, 2 weeks till treaty? They're the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's genuinely it, Also, it's worth noting that there's no, the blockade isn't doing anything to hurt Iran, really, at this point. Iran is capable of shifting their oil and gas production into internal use, so they can just keep producing and also lower prices for people in their country, which would counteract any of the economic damage caused by the US blockade. So there's additionally, they can ship overland. They're not without options here, and
why would Trump
very
take
strange.
a big fat L when he clearly prefers Bubba's big fat D?
Well, sometimes, Sake.
Hey, you know what? You know when it's really fun to be railed animalistically by a man who loves you?
That's the thing. All right. He and Bubba were real. And all of this is all of this is happening, right? And the negotiations have seemingly broken down at this point. But all of this is happening on a timeline, whether or not Donald Trump likes it, that is going to force him to make some kind of decision. And that decision is, I'm scared. I'm scared of what that decision is going to be. Because when you look at oil prices, they're not going to get better. Right now, the prices have been going up and down based on the whims of whatever Donald Trump says. But that's not going to last forever. And eventually, what is happening is that there is a very real amount of oil that is not moving from point A to point B. And when that oil doesn't move, then prices are going to respond in a more real and sustained way to that lack of movement than by anything that Donald Trump says. That's a big problem, because the oil that we're looking at is deeply integral to the operations of countries around the world, right? Japan imports almost all of its oil, although the effects on prices of petrol and other products have been relatively contained by the release of the nation's reserves so far. Crude shortages have already forced refiners across Asia and Europe to aggressively reduce runs. The result is that the squeeze is no longer confined to crude inventories. It is spreading into the fuels that actually power economies: gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, LPG, and naphtha. And when it starts hitting jet fuel in particular, and I know the UK, for example, is really struggling with jet fuel prices at the moment, this is going to absolutely turn into some kind of international incident. And I don't know exactly what that looks like when you've basically united out of necessity like a geopolitical bloc against the United States. My guess is there's going to be a lot of applications of soft power. You know, we've already seen that to an extent with the dumping of U.S. bonds. Well, the shortages are going to happen for sure. That's almost inevitably baked in at this point. And yeah, the shipping of anything by truck or plane or boat is going to become astronomically more expensive if this problem is not resolved soon. And that's kind of what I mean. Like, it's all on a timeline. If Donald Trump doesn't resolve this soon, suddenly an avalanche of terrible things begin happening because this is a meaningful obstruction of oil. And so right now, a lot of people have seen an uptick in gas prices. The kind of uptick we're talking about, like, people don't have necessarily a schema for it. At least, you know, maybe in the United States we'll be relatively protected from these kinds of massive upticks, though everything will begin to cost more. But places around the world are going to start feeling an absolute gut punch over this. And you know, I'm going out on a limb. That's bad. It's bad, and it's going to hurt basically everybody. In some cases, different companies in the United States might not survive. And internationally, it's going to make the United States incredibly reviled. So, I don't know. It seems to me like this is just an ongoing, unfolding disaster every single time I look at, hey, what's going on with Iran today? So, I don't know. Just seems like something maybe we should care about and organize to put a stop to. So if you're interested in organizing, join your local Dems, join your local DSA, make your Dems more progressive and effective, make your DSA more effective, and also consider joining Progressive Victory. They're an excellent org dedicated to connecting you to local, state, and national electoral drives in the name of progressive social change. And if you need help getting started with your Dems or your local DSA, we have people in our community who will help you sign up. So, folks, join our Discord, reach out to GamerG for help joining your local DSA, reach out to Dragonfly for help joining your local Dems. We need people to make their Dems way more effective and progressive and actually work for the working people of this country. We need people to make their DSAs more effective, more organizing towards the working people of this country. That, I think, is the future of any kind of hope we have for this country. And Progressive Victory offers you a third online space to organize in and hang out in, and also offers you opportunities to do door knocking, phone banking, text banking, you name it. We got a bunch of different opportunities lined up. Just join Progressive Victory. We got a link down in the description on that. If you got anything out of this video, hit the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think, where you think this is all going, and also hit the subscribe button if you feel inclined. Last but not least, check out ImogeneOlivia.com, gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes, also tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. Check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. It is sexy, comfortable underwear that is non-tucking. Go check it out. Link down in the description.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight